I used to think birthdays were magical. The day when everyone remembered you, when love was louder than silence, and when a single cake could hold more meaning than an entire year's worth of words. But for me, birthdays became a reminder, an ugly scar, that my family didn't see me the same way they saw my brother and sister. I'm Lena Carter, the middle child. Not the golden oldest, not the precious youngest. Just the space between. Every year my birthday rolled around like clockwork, and every year my family forgot. No balloons, no cake, no happy birthday, Lena. Instead, my mom and dad would be busy planning something grand for my brother, Dylan, whose birthday was just 3 weeks after mine. My sister, Emily, always had entire rooms filled with decorations, friends, gifts wrapped in gold paper. And me, I got leftovers, if that. The first time it stung was when I was 12. I'd saved up my allowance to buy a little cupcake for myself. I lit a candle in secret, whispering "Happy Birthday" in the dark of my room, because no one else had. That moment broke something inside me. But this year was different. I wasn't 12 anymore. I was 21, an adult, old enough to understand that their neglect wasn't an accident. It was a choice. The morning of my birthday, I walked downstairs, pretending not to care. My family sat at the kitchen table, laughter spilling over cereal bowls and toast. No one said anything. Not even a casual, "Oh, it's your day." "Morning," I muttered. "Morning," Dad replied, flipping the newspaper. Mom glanced at me, then back at her phone. Dylan talked about his football practice. Emily whined about needing a new dress for her upcoming party. I sat there, invisible. Again. But I had a plan this time. For months, I'd been noticing things. Secretive conversations between Mom and Emily. Dad hiding envelopes in his study. Dylan suddenly owning expensive new gadgets he couldn't possibly afford. Didn't add up. And I started digging. First, I thought it was nothing more than favoritism. But the deeper I went, the more I realized. It wasn't just about ignoring me. They were hiding something. Something big. And my forgotten birthday. That was going to be the day I began unraveling their perfect little web. After breakfast, I slipped out of the house. I knew exactly where I was going, Dad's study. The room had always been off limits. But over the years, I'd learned how to pick the lock. Inside, the smell of leather and dust greeted me. I rummaged through drawers until I found a box tucked beneath stacks of old papers. Inside were receipts, checks, and letters. My hands trembled as I read them. Money transfers. Hidden accounts. My family wasn't just playing favorites. They were living a double life, one they'd kept carefully away from me. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just neglect. This was betrayal. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the faint glow of the moonlight. My phone buzzed. Social media notifications flooded in. Friends sending birthday wishes. People who cared more about me from miles away than my own family did under the same roof. I smiled bitterly, typing "thank you" to each one. And then I wrote something else. A message I didn't post just yet. They forgot again. But not for long. Because this year I'm the one holding the match. And their secret. It's about to burn. I didn't sleep that night. Instead I planned. Carefully, methodically. If my family could erase me from every birthday, then I'd make sure they remembered this one forever. I wasn't just going to expose their secret. I was going to make sure everyone knew. Because sometimes revenge isn't about anger. It's about finally being seen. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible anymore. The house was quiet the next morning, but my mind wasn't. I hadn't slept at all. My body was exhausted, but adrenaline kept me moving. The documents I found in Dad's study were burned into my brain. Bank transfers, hidden accounts, letters that made no sense. I knew one thing for certain. My family wasn't as picture-perfect as they pretended to be. The irony made me laugh bitterly. They could plan endless parties for Dylan and Emily, buy them expensive gifts, shower them with attention. Yet they had the audacity to tell the world we were a simple family who believed in hard work. Hard work. Well, secrets and lies. Absolutely. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions. If I was going to take revenge, it couldn't be reckless. It had to be precise, calculated, something they could never erase or twist against me. So I began investigating. The eavesdrop. 2 days after my birthday, I came home earlier than usual from the part-time cafe job I worked. As I approached the house, I froze. The front door was slightly open, and voices carried from the living room. I leaned closer, staying out of sight. "We can't keep sending this much money every month, it's getting suspicious," Dad hissed. "We don't have a choice," Mom snapped back. "If she finds out." "She won't," Emily interrupted, her voice dripping with arrogance. "She's too busy sulking about her birthday. Besides, Lena's always been clueless." I gritted my teeth, my fists clenching at my sides. "She's 21 now," Dad said sharply. "Clueless or not, she's not a kid anymore. We need to be careful." Then Dylan spoke. His words were calm, but they sent chills down my spine. "If Lena does find out, we'll make sure she regrets it." My breath caught. My own brother. My own blood. Talking about me like I was an enemy. The hidden envelope. That night, I returned to Dad's study. My hands shook as I went through the drawers again, searching for more. And there it was. A thick envelope sealed with wax. Inside were photographs. One of them made my stomach drop. It was Emily. My perfect, golden sister Emily, standing next to a man I'd never seen before. His arm was draped casually over her shoulder, but the background caught my attention. It wasn't just some random street. It was in front of a gambling den. The neon lights glared behind them like accusations in the night. Another photo showed Dylan exchanging something. Money, maybe. With the same man. And then there were receipts. Casino names, betting slips, debts so high they made my chest tighten. Click. The money transfers weren't just family savings or business investments. My siblings were knee-deep in gambling. And my parents, they were covering it up. No wonder they had no time, energy, or money to celebrate me. They were too busy fixing Dylan and Emily's messes. The breaking point. I sat on my bed that night, staring at the photos spread out in front of me. My throat felt tight, my hands trembling. It wasn't just about birthdays anymore. It was about truth. My family had built their world on lies, and I had been the ghost in the corner, never invited to join, never celebrated, never loved. But maybe that was their mistake because ghosts see everything. And I was done watching. Small test. The next morning I walked into the kitchen, masking my face with a calm smile. Mom was sipping her coffee. Emily scrolled through her phone. Dylan was halfway out the door with his sports bag. Dad was already gone. "Morning," I said sweetly. No one looked up. Typical. I waited, then casually added, "By the way, I saw Dylan at the casino last night." The reaction was instant. Emily froze. Mom's coffee cup clinked against the saucer. Dylan spun around, eyes narrowing. "What?" he snapped. Shrugged. "Relax. I must have been mistaken. You wouldn't do something like that. Right?" His jaw clenched. Mom tried to cover it up with a laugh. "Lena, don't joke about things like that. Casinos." "Really?" Smiled. "You're right. Silly of me. But I knew I had struck a nerve. And it confirmed what I already suspected. They weren't just hiding something. They were terrified of it getting out. The secret birthday gift. That night I received a message from an unknown number. "Meet me behind the diner at 11. Alone." For a moment I hesitated. But curiosity pushed me forward. At 11 sharp, I stood behind the diner, my heart pounding. A shadowy figure emerged. It was the man from the photographs. The one with Emily and Dylan. "You must be Lena," he said, his voice low and raspy. I nodded cautiously. He handed me a small package. Your family thinks they can keep secrets. But secrets have a price. They owe me, and if they don't pay, I'll make sure the whole world knows. I swallowed hard. Why are you telling me this? Because, he smirked, sometimes revenge is best served by those who've been wronged the longest. Happy belated birthday, kid. Before I could respond, he disappeared into the night, leaving me with the package. When I opened it later, my heart stopped. Inside were documents, legal papers, debt signed under my father's name, evidence that could destroy him. It was the most twisted birthday gift I had ever received. But it was exactly what I needed. The spark of revenge. For the first time in my life I felt powerful. They had ignored me, erased me, silenced me for years. But now I held the key to their downfall. I didn't plan to use it immediately. No, this required patience. A storm doesn't announce itself. It builds quietly until the sky can't hold it anymore. And when it finally breaks, nothing survives untouched. I smiled to myself, sliding the documents under my mattress. They wanted to forget my birthday, I whispered into the dark. But this year, it's the one they'll never forget. The package burned like fire beneath my mattress. Every time I thought about it, my heart pounded harder. Debt documents, gambling slips, signatures that tied my father, my brother, my sister, and even my mother to a web of lies. For years I had been the forgotten one, the shadow in the corner, the ghost of family dinners. Now I was the one holding the matches. But power, I realized, wasn't about rushing into battle. It was about timing. If I showed my hand too soon, they'd find a way to bury me again. And I refused to return to invisibility. No, I had to let them trap themselves first. The social media move started small, subtle. That week I posted a picture on Instagram. It wasn't of me. It wasn't even of my family. It was a photo of a casino chip. Just one. No caption. No explanation. The reaction was immediate. Emily stormed into my room that evening. Her phone gripped so tightly her knuckles turned white. What the hell was that about? She demanded. I raised an eyebrow. What was what? Don't play dumb, Lena. That casino chip. Where did you even get it? I leaned back in my chair, feigning boredom. It was just a picture I found online. Chill. Her eyes narrowed. Delete it. I tilted my head. Why does it bother you so much? It's just a chip. She glared at me for a long moment before storming out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I smiled to myself. The first crack had appeared. The whisper campaign. Over the next week, I started planting little seeds. At work, I casually mentioned to my coworker, I think my brother's been spending too much time at the casino. To a family friend I joked, if you ever see my dad near the betting tables, tell him hi for me. I made sure my words were casual, like harmless gossip. But gossip has a way of spreading like wildfire. And soon I knew it would circle back to them. The best part. I never directly accused them. I simply let doubt seep into the air. Doubt is stronger than any accusation, because people fill in the blanks with their worst fears. Dylan slips. One evening, Dylan came home late. I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV. He tried to sneak past me, but the smell hit me first. Alcohol, sweat, and smoke clinging to his jacket. Rough night? Asked casually. He froze. Shut up. Smirked. Lose big again. His face turned red. What did you just say? Shrugged. Nothing. Just making conversation. He stepped closer, his fists clenched. You don't know anything, Lena. Stay out of my business. I met his glare head-on. Funny. I thought family was supposed to share everything. For a moment I thought he might hit me. But instead he stormed upstairs, slamming his door. I leaned back against the couch, my pulse racing. He was cracking. They all were. The family meeting. The explosion came faster than I expected. One Saturday morning, I woke to Mom banging on my door. Downstairs. Now. The whole family was already gathered in the living room when I entered. Dad's face was stern, Emily's arms crossed, Dylan pacing like a caged animal. "We need to talk," Dad said. I sat down calmly, crossing my legs. "About what?" "Don't play games," Emily snapped. "You've been spreading rumors." "Rumors?" I asked innocently. "Yes," Dad growled. "About casinos. About gambling. About us. Do you have any idea how dangerous that is?" I tilted my head. "If it's not true, why does it bother you so much?" The room went silent. I could feel the tension crackling like static. Dylan cursed under his breath, pacing harder. Emily bit her lip. Mom glanced nervously at Dad, who clenched his fists. Finally he said, "We are warning you, Lena. Stop whatever you're doing. Right now." I smiled sweetly. "Of course. If there's nothing to hide, then there's no problem. Right?" They didn't answer. They didn't need to. Their silence was my confirmation. The secret weapon. That night, I pulled the package out from under my mattress. My hands trembled as I spread the documents across my bed again. I had everything I needed to destroy them. Debt records, signatures, photos. But one piece of paper stood out more than the rest. A legal notice. It wasn't just about money. It hinted at something darker. Fraud. If exposed, it wouldn't just humiliate them, it could ruin them completely. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I ready to do this? To turn my family's world upside down? Then I remembered every lonely birthday. Every candle I lit alone. Every laugh they shared while ignoring me. And I knew. I was ready. The ally. 2 days later, while working at the cafe, a customer walked in. Someone unexpected. It was the same man who had given me the package. The one connected to my siblings' gambling. He slid into a booth, motioning for me to sit across from him. "You've looked at the papers?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "Good. You know what your family's been up to then. They owe a lot of people money. Dangerous people." I leaned closer. "And what do you want from me?" He smirked. "Nothing. I just think it's poetic. They ignored you. Fine. Let them choke on their own secrets. But if you ever need help, you know where to find me." Before I could respond, he left. I sat there, my mind spinning. I didn't know if he was an ally or just another snake in the grass. But I did know one thing. His words had power. And maybe, just maybe, I could use him too. The birthday that never ends. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something. My family thought my birthday was over. Forgotten, erased, just like every year. But this time it wasn't ending. Not until I made sure they remembered it forever. Every move I made from here on out would be my gift to myself. A revenge so sharp, so unforgettable, that they would never again be able to pretend I didn't exist. I smiled in the dark, whispering to myself, "Happy birthday, Lena. Let the games begin." Revenge isn't about one big explosion, it's about pressure. You turn the screws slowly until the glass starts to crack, until the pressure inside becomes unbearable. My family had built their lives like a glass house, shiny and flawless to outsiders. But I knew where the first crack was. And I was ready to press. The dinner trap. The first step was small. Harmless, even. One Friday evening, my parents invited a few neighbors over for dinner. It was their favorite show, putting on a facade of the perfect, respectable Carter family. Mom served her best roast chicken, Dad poured wine, Emily laughed too loud, Dylan bragged about football. I waited until dessert. "Funny story," I began, smiling sweetly at the guests. "Did you know casinos actually have cameras everywhere? Like you can catch anyone on film if you look hard enough. The room went still for a second. Dylan choked on his drink. Emily's fork froze halfway to her mouth. "Oh, Lena," Mom said quickly, forcing a laugh. "What a silly thing to bring up at the table." Shrugged. "Not silly at all. I just thought it was interesting." The neighbors chuckled awkwardly, shifting in their seats. They didn't know what was happening, but the discomfort was enough. My family shot me daggers with their eyes, but I just smiled, licking frosting from my fork. Crack. Emily panics. 2 days later, Emily cornered me in my room. "What are you doing?" she hissed. I looked up from my book. "Reading. You know what I mean. At dinner. With those stupid comments. Are you trying to ruin us?" Closed the book slowly. "Ruin us? Or ruin you?" Her eyes widened. "You don't know what you're talking about." Smirk. "Don't I? 'Cause I think I know more than you think I do. And you know what's funny? I didn't even have a birthday cake this year. But somehow, I've got all this attention now." Her face paled. For the first time I saw fear in her eyes. But the leaked photo. The next move was riskier. I created a new social media account, anonymous. On it, I posted one of the photographs I'd found, the one of Emily standing outside the gambling den with the mystery man's arm around her. I didn't tag her. I didn't even use names. Just a caption. "Not so perfect after all." Spread faster than I expected. A few of Emily's classmates stumbled onto it, then whispered about it. Within hours, she was in meltdown mode, screaming at Mom about someone sabotaging her. I sat in my room, biting back a laugh. She was unraveling, and I hadn't even shown the worst yet. Crack. I'd slip. My father was harder. He carried himself like a man in control, always measured, always calm. But even the strongest walls can fall. At a family friend's barbecue, I casually brought up finances. It must be so hard to keep track of everything when money just disappears. I mean, my dad's always so stressed about it. Dad's head whipped toward me, his face pale. The friend chuckled, brushing it off. But I saw the way Dad's jaw tightened, the way sweat gathered at his temple. He pulled me aside later, his voice low and dangerous. "You don't know what you're playing with, Lena." I looked him dead in the eye. "Maybe. Or maybe I know exactly what I'm playing with." For the first time I saw fear in him too. And it was intoxicating. Crack. Dylan explodes. Dylan was the easiest to provoke. His temper was a ticking bomb. One evening, I accidentally left a betting slip on the kitchen counter. It wasn't his, but it didn't matter. It looked real enough. When Mom saw it, she gasped, waving it in his face. "Are you gambling again?" He exploded. "It's not mine. She planted it." He pointed at me, shaking with rage. I widened my eyes, feigning innocence. "Why would I do that, Dylan?" He lunged at me, and Dad had to hold him back. The living room erupted into shouting. Emily cried, Mom yelled, Dylan swore. And me. I just stood there, calm in the chaos. Crack. The perfect image shatters. Over the next week, the pressure grew unbearable. Whispers spread through the neighborhood. Emily became paranoid, avoiding school. Dylan drank more, coming home later each night. Dad's temper flared at the smallest things. Mom's face looked gaunt from stress. And all the while I smiled. Every ignored birthday, every lonely candle, every laugh that excluded me. It all played back in my mind as I watched their perfect image collapse piece by piece. But I wasn't done. I still had the documents, the debt, the fraud. And I knew exactly when to use them. The invitation. It was Emily who gave me the perfect opportunity. Despite everything, she insisted on throwing herself a birthday party. Loud, extravagant, the kind that made people forget gossip. Everyone's invited, she bragged one night at dinner. It's going to be the party of the year. I sipped my water. Everyone. Yes, Lena, she sneered. Even you. Smiled. Good. I wouldn't miss it. Because Emily thought it would be her party. But it was going to be mine. The stage was set. The audience would be there. And when I lit the match, no one would be able to ignore me ever again. The calm before the storm. That night, lying in bed, I pulled the documents out one last time. My fingers brushed over the signatures, the debts, the evidence of fraud. I imagined the look on their faces when the truth came crashing down in front of everyone. The gasps, the whispers, the destruction of their carefully crafted facade. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was justice. I blew out the lamp, darkness filling the room. But in my chest, a fire burned brighter than ever. My birthday may be over, I whispered into the night, but their nightmare is just beginning. And with that, I closed my eyes, already picturing the chaos to come. Crack, crack, crack. The glass house was ready to shatter. The night of Emily's party was the kind of night she lived for. Glittering lights, thumping music, a house packed with people who thought she was perfect. Every detail was designed to scream, "Look at me." The gold streamers, the massive cake, the hired DJ. Neighbors came, classmates swarmed, and even Dad's colleagues showed up, shaking hands like we were a respectable family. I stood at the edge of the room, invisible as usual, holding a glass of soda. But inside, I was humming with anticipation. This wasn't Emily's night anymore. It was mine. The performance. Emily floated through the crowd in her sparkling dress, beaming like a queen. Dylan clung to his beer, already tipsy. Mom fussed over the food, while Dad entertained guests with his fake laugh. They thought they had control again. That the whispers would fade, that the cracks would seal themselves. But cracks don't seal. They spread. And tonight I was going to split the whole house open. When the DJ announced it was time for speeches, I stepped forward. "Wait," I said, my voice steady but loud enough to hush the crowd. "I have something to say." The room went still. Emily's smile froze. Dad's face darkened. Mouth no. But it was too late. The first blow. I walked to the center, heart pounding but voice calm. "Tonight we're all here to celebrate Emily. The golden girl. The perfect daughter. The one who gets everything she wants." A few guests chuckled, thinking it was a joke. Emily forced a laugh. "Okay, Lena, very funny. But here's the truth," I cut her off. "This family isn't perfect. In fact, it's built on lies. Lies they've kept hidden for years." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dad stepped forward, his voice low and sharp. "Lena, sit down." I turned to him, smiling coldly. "Why?" "Afraid they'll know the truth. About the gambling. The debts. The fraud." The word fraud hit the room like a thunderclap. Murmurs erupted. People shifted uncomfortably. Dylan dropped his beer, shattering the glass at his feet. Emily's face drained of color. And I wasn't even done. Evidence. From my bag I pulled out the stack of papers. Receipts. Photos. Debt notices. Legal threats. "Here," I said, holding them up for everyone to see. "This is what my family hides behind their smiles. My brother drowning in gambling debt. My sister photographed outside casinos. My father signing away money to cover it all. And my mother, pretending it doesn't exist." Gasps turned into whispers. Guests craned their necks to see. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." Emily rushed toward me, eyes wild. "Stop it. You don't know what you're talking about." I stepped back, my voice rising. "Don't I? You've ignored me my whole life. My birthdays meant nothing to you. But now everyone sees you for what you really are." I turned toward the stunned crowd. A family of liars. A collapse. It all unraveled at once. Dylan lunged at me, but two guests held him back. He shouted curses, his face red with rage. Emily broke down in tears, mascara streaking down her cheeks. She's lying. She's jealous. She's always been jealous. Mom tried to gather the papers from my hands, but I tossed them into the crowd. They scattered like confetti, guests snatching them up, eyes widening as they read the truth. Dad roared, "Enough!" But his voice cracked, the weight of the exposed evidence crushing his authority. The room buzzed with whispers, phones snapping photos of the documents, videos already uploading to social media. Their perfect image was collapsing in real time, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. And me. For the first time, every single eye in that room was on me. The silence after. The DJ had cut the music. The laughter was gone. Only whispers and gasps filled the air. I stood in the center, chest heaving but my voice steady. "You forgot my birthday again," I said softly. "Like you always do. But this year you'll never forget it. Because this is the year I reminded you that I exist." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Then, one by one, people began leaving. Neighbors slipped out quietly. Dad's colleagues avoided his eyes. Emily's friends abandoned her, muttering excuses. In less than 10 minutes, the party was over. The fallout. The house was chaos after the guests left. Dylan stormed upstairs, slamming doors so hard the walls rattled. Emily sobbed on the couch, wailing about her ruined reputation. Mom sat pale and silent, her hands trembling. And Dad just stared at me. "You've destroyed us," he whispered. "No," I said coldly. "You destroyed yourselves. I just showed everyone the truth." His eyes burned with fury, but beneath it, I saw fear. Not of me, but of the world outside. The debts, the fraud, the whispers that would spread like wildfire now that the truth was out. And for once, I didn't feel small in his gaze. Felt powerful. My victory. That night, I sat alone in my room, the echo of their chaos muffled through the walls. For years, I had begged for their attention, their love, their recognition. I had lit my own candles, sung my own birthday songs. I had been invisible in the very place I should have felt safe. But not anymore. Now, they would never be able to look at me without remembering the night their world fell apart. And that, I realized, was the sweetest birthday gift of all. The morning after Emily's party, the Carter household was silent. Not the usual silence of indifference, but a heavy, suffocating quiet, the kind that follows an earthquake when everyone is still counting the cracks in the walls. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee. The sunlight spilled across the counter, far too bright for a house that had just crumbled from the inside. Upstairs I heard muffled sobs. Emily. Dylan's footsteps pounded back and forth like a caged animal. Mom hadn't come out of her room. Dad had left before sunrise. His car screeching out of the driveway without a word. For the first time in years I felt something new in this house. Power. The fallout begins. By noon, the whispers had spread online. Videos from the party had gone viral on social media. Photos of the documents were being analyzed in group chats, forums, even local news threads. Carter family scandal. Fraud allegations. Golden kids exposed. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages. Friends from college, co-workers, even strangers congratulated me. Some said I was brave, others said I was ruthless. A few warned me I had gone too far. But none of them knew the truth. None of them knew the years of invisibility, of forgotten birthdays, of whispered neglect that had led me here. For them it was drama. For me it was justice. Confrontation. That evening Dad returned. His face was grim, his eyes bloodshot. He slammed the front door so hard the frames on the wall rattled. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he roared. I stood calmly in the hallway. "I told the truth. You humiliated us. You humiliated me. My career is finished. Emily's reputation is in ruins. Dylan's debts were already ruining him," I interrupted. Emily's lies were already crumbling. Your fraud was already illegal. Don't blame me for the house you built. His face turned purple with rage. For a moment I thought he might strike me. But he didn't. He just shook his head, his voice breaking. You're no daughter of mine. I looked him in the eye, my voice steady. You never treated me like one anyway. Emily's breakdown. Later that night, Emily came into my room. Her makeup was smeared, her eyes swollen. She looked nothing like the glittering queen from the night before. Why, Lena, she whispered. Why would you do this to us? I stared at her. Do you even hear yourself? You've never once included me in that, us. Every year you got the parties, the gifts, the attention. And me. Nothing. Not even a cake. Not even a candle. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't think it mattered. My chest tightened for a moment, because that was the truth. They hadn't thought it mattered. My pain had been invisible to them. Now it matters, I said softly. She left without another word. Dylan's threat. The next morning, Dylan cornered me outside. His eyes were bloodshot, his fists clenched. You think you've won, he growled. This isn't over. You've ruined me, Lena. And I swear I'll make you pay. I didn't flinch. You can't scare me anymore, Dylan. You've already lost. He cursed, storming off down the street. But his words stayed with me. Revenge had given me power, but it had also made enemies. Even within my own blood. Mom's silence. Mom never confronted me. She just faded. She stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, stopped speaking. I would find her staring at the wall for hours, her phone buzzing with calls she didn't answer. Sometimes I wondered if she hated me or if she hated herself more, for letting it all spiral, for covering up, for ignoring me until I became the one who set the fire. But she never said a word. And in that silence, I realized she was as broken as the rest of them. My birthday, finally. A week later, my college friends threw me a small gathering. Nothing fancy. Just a cake, a few candles, laughter in a cramped apartment. When they lit the candles and sang, my chest tightened. For years I had imagined this moment. Being seen, being celebrated, being remembered. As I blew out the candles, I didn't wish for anything. I didn't need to. Because my wish had already come true. The price of revenge. But revenge always has a price. My family was in ruins. Dad's company opened an investigation into his finances. Emily dropped out of her classes, too humiliated to face anyone. Dylan's gambling debts caught up with him. People started knocking at the door, demanding money he didn't have. And me. I was free, but I was also alone. The truth is, I hadn't just destroyed them. I had destroyed whatever was left of us. And once the glass house shatters, you can't glue it back together. Sometimes late at night I ask myself, was it worth it? Then I remembered 12-year-old me singing "Happy Birthday" to herself in the dark with a single cupcake. And I knew the answer. It was worth it. The last word. Months later, when people asked about my family, I just smiled and said, "We don't talk much." They didn't need the details. The world already knew. But deep inside I carried the memory of that night. The night I stopped being invisible, the night I turned my forgotten birthday into a weapon, the night I finally made them see me. And if I had to do it again, I would. Because sometimes, the only way to be remembered is to make sure they can never forget.